Today is 593rd day that I'm here to share lessons I learned and I'm learning. I hope this will support your dreams, your goals, allow you to become the person that you want to become. Today I speak about a very interesting topic, ego. To be honest, I didn't understand what ego truly means. I used to see that egoistic people are people who really trying to grab a lot of attention. They are very loud and they want attention. And that's all I thought about ego, that people with high egos want a lot of attention. They want to be centered. They want to be, everyone needs to know them. That's all I thought about ego. But I learned that ego is far more than that. And every single person have ego and they show up in one way or another. And every single person needs to be battling that ego because people learn from other people how to be egoistic. And there's so many different ways that ego show up in our lives. And most time that if you do not achieve your results, it might be that your ego is out of place. So that means that not successful people have big egos, but unsuccessful people most time have even higher egos. Of course, there is not one story. Some people who have a beautiful car achieved a lot of great things, but now they are afraid to lose it and they have big egos and they are validated by their own car. And they believe that, oh, I own a good car, so that means that I'm afraid to lose it because if I lose it, I will lose my name. But at the same time, people who has big egos are not able to achieve success because they are not able to really improve because ego is stopping your growth. So that means if you're not growing, maybe you need to ask, where is your ego? Because a lot of times people say, oh, this person have big ego, this person have a big ego. Sometimes we need to look into mirror. And I needed to look into my mirror as well and say that there's a lot of things that you need to improve to really be a better person. Because when you leave your ego, you're able to connect with yourself, you're able to connect with your faith, and of course you become a better human being. And I was trying to write notes for this lesson for ego, and there's so many different things that I would love to share, and I will try to share as much as I can because there's so many things. Now, what's happening is that if you have big ego, like there's a lot of different things that is, of course, it's showing up in your life. So I'll share 7 things that's really what ego does into your life. So first is difficulty in forming and maintaining relationships. The higher the ego is, the harder for other people really to connect with you. People don't want to be surrounded by a person who really is always about themselves. When you let go the ego, of course, you're able to be for other person as well. So you're able to build relationships. Second is interpersonal conflicts. So that means the big ego, when you have a big ego, you don't know how is to make a decision and what kind of action is supposed to take. Because one action potentially could allow you to grow. One action is to protect yourself. Because raising a hand in the room where there's a lot of smart people, or it doesn't matter what kind of room, raising a hand is showing that I do not have ego and I'm willing to ask a question. It doesn't matter if it's dumb or not, you're not afraid to look stupid because you don't want to be stupid. That's why you raise your hand and ask a question. So that means interpersonal, that will be internal conflict that you will need to battle. 3 is stunned personal growth. So that means, again, if you have high ego, that means that you will need to hide or protect yourself. And you will want to be seen as a smart person already. But when you really want to personal growth, you need to take criticism. You need to take advice from other people. So you don't need to be seen as perfect. But when you really go out and say, like, I'm humble, I want to learn, I want to improve. So that means you're able to show that. And then, of course, you're going much faster. Isolation and alienation. So that means that when you have high ego, you see others as lower than you, and that at that moment you isolate yourself. At the same time, if you don't want to lose your high status and don't want to see that you don't know something, you will say that, oh, I don't want to be seen that I don't know something. So that means you will hide from all the people. Number 5 is professional setbacks. Of course, when you have high ego, you will not do the things necessary to achieve great things. And of course, sooner or later, you'll have some setbacks in professional aspect as well. Number 6 is impaired decision making. again, as I said, that when we have high egos, our decision making process will be a little bit different, because now we need to consider to protect our ego, to protect ourselves, to how other people will see us. But when you let the ego go and you do not care how other people will see you now, and you base decisions just on your own needs, of course your decision making process will be a little bit different. And of course, the last one is lack of fulfillment and happiness. When you let the ego, you are much more happy, because you base decisions only on your goals and your needs, on your fulfillment. Because when you make decisions based on ego, you are protecting yourself, but at the same time protecting yourself and surviving and protecting your brand sometimes is taking a lot of your energy that you could allocate that energy to a lot of different things that could bring meaning into your life. Now, what you could do to really build yourself and really let it go, ego. So I will read all the notes that I wrote about really building self-awareness to reduce the ego. So cultivate the self-awareness, practice empathy and perspective taking, be open to feedback and criticism, cultivate humility, foster a growth mindset, practice mindfulness and meditation, focus on serving others, cultivate gratitude and appreciation. So all those 8 things will allow you to be much better and let the ego go. Now, of course, I would love to mention even more things. That means how to know when you have an ego. So I will mention 8 things first, and after that I'll go even more in that. But first is that self-centeredness. So that means you always think about yourself first, not about anyone others. Second is constant need for validation. If you need validation from other people that you are great, that you are smart, that you are fast, but then something, that means that you are having high ego. Excessive self-promotion. So that means if you say that and you're bragging all the time and you speak about yourself constantly, that means that you have high ego. Disregard for others' feelings. So that means if you don't care about other people's feelings, how they feel, of course that shows high ego. Difficulty accepting criticism. That is very, very important. So that means that when someone is sharing their perspective on you, how you did, and you give the feedback, and you're not able to accept it, of course that shows high ego. Dominating conversations. A lot of times people who have high ego, they are just speaking and speaking and speaking because they want to show how smart they are. But that a lot of times is really detrimental to your relationships and in other people's eyes. Number 7 is sense of entitlement. People believe that for high egos that they deserve better. They deserve respect. They deserve trust. They deserve everything. But really, all of those is based on action and what you do, not based on entitlement. The last one is inability to acknowledge mistakes. So that means people with high egos, they are not able to say that this is my failure, this I failed, because they're not able to accept it. Because if they will need to accept the mistake, that means they will need to say that I'm not perfect, I didn't figure things out, and of course that is very detrimental for the high egos. Now, when I think about egos, of course, there's a lot of people who speaks a lot of great things about egos, and one of my favorite person to listen to is Ed Mylett, and I listen. He's one of the lessons. I'll share all the things that he mentioned during his video about ego. So how you need to know that you are having high ego. So Ed Mylett said that you're able to say that defensiveness. So if you are very defensive when people say something and you're very defensive, that means you have high ego. Of course, the same validating. That means that if you need yourself to be validating, that means that of course high ego. Bragging about yourself. Revenge. If you always want to give revenge, that means that you have high ego. Possessiveness. That means if you possess other people, possess something else, that means that it shows high ego. And talking about others. That's very interesting. That means if you very often talk about others, complain about others, compare with others, that means you're comparing your egos, and of course that means that you have high ego. Obsessive with themselves. So that means that taking too many pictures of themselves, thinking about themselves, talking about themselves. If you think all about, again, the same self-centeredness. If you think too much, of course, high ego. And the same with bullying. That means that if you trying to put someone else down, That means that you want to put yourself up, and that shows a high ego. Now, other things that he mentioned is that seeking approval. If you seek approval, that shows a high ego. Afraid to be alone. A lot of times people are afraid to be in their mind, or afraid to be with their thoughts, and of course, a high ego. They don't want to be offended, of course, and offended by criticism. They say, oh, like, I don't want to listen to you. And high ego people want to stay with people who think like them, because if there's any other person who believes a little bit differently, they feel uncomfortable, they feel challenged. So if you always want to be with exactly the same people, that means that you have a high ego. Insecurities and self-doubt. So that all self-doubt and insecurities are coming from high ego. Stuck in the past. Then worrying what everybody thinks about them. And constantly apologizing. So there's so many things that we need to really consider when I'm thinking about ego, because I used to believe that ego is a very small thing. Just if you are self-centered, that is ego. But when you think about ego, I learned from Adam Willett and other people that ego is much, much more than that. And ego is holding you back. So that means you need to look at it. If you worrying about other people, what they think about you, and you're not worrying about yourself, and really, because you need to think about what you want, what you really want. But at the same time, you need to think about what other people want as well. So like ego is such a big topic, and I know that I didn't share perfectly about ego today, but this is all about, because ego is a new topic that I never looked at, and I know that in the future I will learn more about it, because I found that there is things that I need to work on as well, because I still need to work on the grudge. Sometimes I feel that some person didn't do right, so I still feel a grudge, and I feel that I love to do revenge. But at the same time, I understand that when I think about something, I put a bone, because when you try to think about and revenge, that means it's like drinking poison and thinking that other person will die. Because when you let it go and really forgive, that means that you're able to move forward. And there's other things that I need to work on, but I think that's knowing that I'm being more aware what ego is that is a first step to really working on it and improving and getting better. What I like about Adam Willett and what he said, that ego, when you have a low ego, that shows that you're able to work on things that even though that you don't get validation, you don't get results, you don't get anything, but you're able to keep pushing forward. And that's exactly what I do here. I put my YouTube lessons every single day, because I know that allows me to grow, allows to improve, even though that I get a lot of validation for what I do. But I am very proud of myself, because I know that I do that for myself, and the same for other people. And that means that if you want to prove that you do not have an ego, you need to do a lot of things without a validation, without other people approval, because the only approval that you need is you and yourself. And that's it. So I hope you choose to win, and see you tomorrow.